Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 25th SF Indie Fest. The festival is going from February 2nd through 12th. It'll be screening live at the Roxy Theater and online on your digital film festival. So thank you so much to all of our audience who tuned in and to our filmmakers joining us today for a Q&A about the animation shorts program. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Sarah Flores. Hi. Okay, so let's just kick things off. We're gonna introduce our filmmakers. They're gonna tell us what film they created and what was the genesis of the story that they decided to tell. And we're gonna start off with Deanna. Hi, Deanna. Welcome.
Hi, how's it going? Yeah, my name is Deanna Warden, and I made the film Call It What You Will. And I basically approached my friend Joey, who's a musician, and he sent me his whole catalog of music. I've been interested in animation for a very long time, but I had never made one. I'm a tattoo artist by trade, and I just wanted to give it a go. So he sent me what he had, and I picked a song that had a beautiful story already, but there was a lot of room to kind of create my own story on top of it and leave it a little bit ambiguous. So yeah, I made a paper cut stop motion to his music.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, Deborah. Welcome. Can you tell us what film you made and what your role was and what the story behind it is?
So my name is Deborah Solomon, and I made Little Hearts, and the genesis of the film was a visit to the dry cleaner where she suggested that I go on a diet rather than let out my pants. So for the film, I animated it, wrote it, sang it. What else? Wrote it, sang it, designed it. Yeah, everything except for painting it.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Hi, Marissa and Peter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So we're the writers and directors of The Interrogation, which is a short kind of pondering on media and journalism and a very dark future that we could imagine for where that could be heading. And it's a character from a series we've been working on.
Yeah, it's sort of the genesis of the short was what will happen if corporate power continues to aggregate and aggregate and aggregate? What would that mean for media and journalism specifically? And for those that saw the short, there's almost the journalist in the story, Rojas, is sort of put in a position where it's almost like she has to take loyalty tests and almost like it's sort of a religious almost belief that the company is almost like, a deity. And it sort of ends with, is it possible for the company's called Harp? Is it possible for Harp to make a mistake? And she says, well, no. But she's able to hide her real thoughts because she's, in this fictional universe, she's a telepath. So she's able to hide she has a fake persona that she hides behind it. So yeah, it's kind of like, in a way we kind of think of it as almost like a psychological horror film. It's not got monsters, there's no blood, there's no guts, nothing truly scary happens. But then we've had a lot of people say afterwards, like, I was thinking about that more and more, and the more I thought about it, the scarier it got. So it's kind of like, God, what could that happen like 50 years from now? Could we be living in a world where, and I'm like, well, maybe it won't be 50, maybe it's more like 25, so minus the telepath parts, I guess. But anyway, that was it.
Sci-fi.
Yes, sci-fi.
Very, very cool. Nothing scarier than the human mind, and speculative fiction is always something that's just brewing. So thank you so much. Hi, Zoe. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Zoe Morgan. I'm responsible for the film First Venture. I was responsible for the writing, the directing, the animating, and the editing, pretty much everything that wasn't the actual voices coming out of my voice actors. And this wacky space adventure had been, bouncing around in my head for several years. And eventually I just came to, this was my student thesis film. So I came down to, okay, boil this down. What are the most important parts? What are the most important themes? And what are the most important characters? And bring it back up into something coherent.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zoe, for joining with your film First Venture. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi there. My name's John Portman. My film is called Excreta. The genesis for the film. So I have two big dogs, and I live here in San Francisco. And I find myself very often walking around the city with holding large quantities of dog poop in little green bags. And the film itself has, there's some social commentary and stuff in there, but I'm not going to pretend like the core premise is some very highbrow concept. So I think on one of these walks, like manna from heaven, the idea came to me, and I decided to make a film out of it. My role in the film was writer, director, animator, as well as a few other things. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Actually, John, I'm going to kick it back to you. I'm going to ask the entire group. The interesting thing about animation, there's such a varied storytelling approach in all of these films, but also such a different look and feel. I think the nice thing about animation is everything can be a little individualized. So I was hoping that each of you could tell us about your approach to your animation style. Were there any influences? Or how did you bring this to the screen? And John, we'll kick it back to you.
Sure. So the visual approach to the film started with the design for the characters. They are all inspired by Modigliani portraits. He's been one of my favorite artists for a long time, and I've always had in my head I would love to do a film using the types of characters that he paints in his portraits. And when this idea came to me, I thought it might be a good opportunity to employ that style for the characters. So all the characters are kind of these Frankenstein collections of Modigliani portraits. So I started there, and I knew that I wanted to have this very unsettling feel to the world that we're building, this kind of empty, stark, hand-drawn, loose line feel to it. And fortunately, I have a whole bunch of friends who are artists, are always willing to collaborate. This one in particular, I used my friend Charlie Hudson, who's this amazing painter based out of New York. And he graciously offered to illustrate all the backgrounds, this kind of pen and ink style, really rough. And the combination of the characters kind of placed in this very stark pen and ink world, just kind of created the exact tone that I was looking for. I really just wanted to make the viewer feel kind of uncomfortable and constantly, on edge and uneasy when they watched it. So that was my approach. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you so much. Hey, Zoe, how about you? What was your inspiration for the look of your film, and how did you make it so?
Yeah, so the character designs, they're relatively simple. I used, it is 3D, so it's CGI, but I used a specific texture that gives everything outlines, so it looks like a comic book cartoon kind of thing, to match with the simplistic designs of the characters. And the really great thing about CGI for me is because this is a sci-fi world with so many aliens and a couple different environments, is that with 3D, because they're all puppets, the scale, I don't have to worry about keeping scale consistent. So when you have all of these aliens running around, everybody stays proportional to how they were, and you get the sense that this is really the meeting point of all of these creatures.
I like quiet.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, Melissa and Peter, how about you? What was your approach? Obviously this is a larger universe, so is it consistent throughout also? And
yeah, so as directors and also our team of animators who've been working on this, we really wanted a lot of bold images, colors that really popped. And then we're influenced by, I think you guys who watch it will probably see like a little Aeon Flux influence. We're really into old animation, sci-fi animation like that from the 80s. And then also we were influenced by like the really old classic sci-fi too. So like Metropolis kind of echoes in there with the backgrounds and the buildings. So yeah, those are some of our thoughts with the style. I'll hand it over to you.
Oh, yeah, just briefly, we wanted to try to have like very rich colors, it's, you know, throughout. There's a lot of contrast throughout the series, so we thought that, I think that the interrogation does a good job of sort of showcasing what the series looks like in general. And yeah, we were inspired a lot by the sort of the golden pulp era of sci-fi and those early like magazine covers and, or, you know, pulp covers, and then things like Metropolis and definitely sort of play a role. Although, you know, there's a variety of influences, I guess I would say, but yeah.
So cool. You definitely see it harkening back to things, but really building on it. So it's very lovely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Deborah, hi. Can you talk about your animation? Like what inspired the look of it and how did you make it come to the screen?
I think over the years in the films I've made, my drawing has a certain shorthand about it. And very much like in the writing, I'm actually trying to pare what I'm doing down to the truth. Like if it rings true, like if I'm drawing my grandmother as a circus performer and she's in a high wire act with my grandfather, something they never really, I think, did. I'm looking for drawing the echoes that I feel about the situations I was in as a kid, and just trying to bring to the fiction part of the film a sense of authenticity. That's always what I'm driving at, paring away the bullshit and getting down to the essence of the story that I'm telling. And the film actually starts during my mother's childhood. So what I tried to do was basically go back and forth in between the present and me in the East Village, and then sort of the history of my family. And that, but the color palette, I just go with the colors that make a scene sing. I want it to just be really strong when people see it.
Well, it is indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Deanna, can you talk about your approach to your animation style? I mean, I think yours might be the most lo-fi,
Yeah.
but it's so fun.
Yeah, I'd say I was inspired most by the music that accompanies the film. I was trying to match that, and it's kind of a lo-fi recording too, which I thought suited it well. But I digitally illustrated everything and then printed it out and hand cut it out and moved the little pieces of paper around. And that's how the animation was done. It took about 250 hours to make the 3 minutes of film. But I went with like a lot of vintage colors and I actually use like vintage wallpaper for the backgrounds and stuff. The story is kind of about love and loss and kind of feeling stuck. And I kind of wanted it to feel like he was stuck in time a little bit. So that was the visual inspiration for that.
Oh, cool. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. And we just love sharing these stories. So really appreciate you all.
Thank you so much.